Hello, everyone. Thank you for registering most importantly, and joining me for today's session. The topic is automating employee onboarding and offboarding, and we're going to look at some of the best practices on these topics. My name is Megha, and I'm a product expert here at Manage Engine. Before I begin the session, let me assure you that if you have any questions during the session or at the end of the session, I'll be here to take them to address any of the queries that you may have about the topic that we'll be discussing today or the product that I will be demonstrating towards the end of the solution. So once again, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm pleased to be presenting on this very important topic. What we enjoy at Manage Engine is to help organizations such as yours to address the challenges that comes along with Active Directory provisioning. And I believe that by the end of the session, you will have gained some key takeaways. So before we actually go ahead with this topic, I just want to touch upon some reasons, or rather three reasons, why an automated user provisioning practice will benefit your organization. From an internal control and audit perspective, it is a way to ensure segregation of duties. From a productivity standpoint, user provisioning is going to make life easier for the managers because they do not have to arrange access for each employee manually. And lastly, it reduces the risk of unauthorized information access by granting only when it is needed. So what we'll be doing is from here on we'll be taking a few scenarios, day-to-day scenarios that you would definitely be facing in your organization. A deep dive into what you can do to make these processes and tasks a lot more simple. And this is what we're going to be addressing for the next 30 to 35 minutes. So I'm going to start off with a user onboarding. So in a typical user onboarding scenario, what you would ideally be getting, or what is the normal case, is you would be getting a list of new users who are yet to join the organization on a certain date and time. And you would be getting this list from the HR, which was likely to be exported from an HRMS application that he is using, right? So once he enters all those details into the portal, he exports it and then sends it to you as a CSV file or an Excel sheet. And then it is up to you and your team to create accounts for all these new employees. So you don't, as you receive the email. So what is the first thing that you do? Like, how do you leverage the information that you get from the HR, right? So most of the times you rely on scripts or manual provisioning, but unfortunately these scripts can get complicated as the business needs grow. And most traditional methods, like let's say if you're using Active Directory users and computers, creating an account through that, they're prone to errors because you will be doing it one by one, and also the process is slow and cumbersome. And of course, provisioning doesn't end with just creating an account, but also extends to managing their access to applications, the mailboxes, the group memberships. So even though the HR is sending you the information through an email or a ticketing system, once it comes to you, and even the process from the beginning itself is manual. And these processes are often fraught with errors because there's a lot of data entry going on. So to summarize, using a meta directory or a homegrown script is not the most efficient approach to user management. And it doesn't have to be that way. That is the most important part. So one of the things that we recommend is to have a purpose built tool that is out of the box implementable in your organization. So there are two rules when it comes to user management. Firstly, making sure that the users are productive from the word go. The last thing you would want is to have someone on board and then have them wait. And last but not least, get rid of those terminated employees quickly from the directory. And this not is just taking care of their account, but also making sure that these accounts do not have access to their resources, their emails, and so on. And let's say if you're relying on someone to do the task, or you have set this task aside, it's doing this promptly through automation is both a security as well as a productivity tactic. So, from this point onwards, I'll take you through some of the best practices that you can implement in your organization. And then I'll sum up with the benefits of the automation. And of course, I will also be, as I said earlier, I'll be giving a quick introduction to the tool, the Active Directory Management Reporting tool called AD Manager Plus, which will help you address some of these challenges that we'll be covering today. And of course, you're always free to adopt these measures that I will be covering with the tools by other third party vendors that is already deployed in your environment. But just a quick introduction to the tool will be covered at the end. So as I was saying earlier, we're going to be starting with employee onboarding. So the HR is going to send you all the details of the new users, and these could be users belonging to multiple departments, designations, roles, teams. So all those details are exported and then given to you, and then each of these users go to different should have a checklist of permissions or should have a different attribute levels and then permissions and everything configured based on which department they belong to or what team they're part of, their designation, so on. So again, it's up to you to do that manually, or again, you have to resort to scripts. Now, a great workaround for this is, rather than the HR exporting the details which is saved, which was entered in and saved earlier, and then giving you the information in the form of a sheet or an Excel sheet or CSV file through email, and then you get that data, and then you set forth to create accounts. So rather than relying on external teams, and in this case, I would say the HR team, and even the IT team, I would say, when you're delegating this to someone within your team as well to do it, you can avoid this dependency by integrating your HRMS solution with your Active Directory Management solution if it's supported. What it supports or what it facilitates is, as and when the HR is entering the details and saving, the tool picks up those new user information, the new records that are entered, and the accounts, the Active Directory accounts will be created, and all the other accounts along with the Active Directory account will be created as well, like your Exchange mailbox, your G Suite or Skype for Business or MS Teams. So all these can be done in one shot rather than doing it for each of these users. Let's say if you're going to be creating for a set of users, it's not a one-step activity, right? So you would start with creating an account in Active Directory, then you will move on to the Exchange Management Console and provision a mailbox, and whatever business applications that you might be using in your organization. You would have to toggle between all these platforms to make sure that when the employee or the set of employees are joining on the first day, they have access to everything and there is no productivity delay, right? So you let the two tools communicate. So similarly, when the employees leave the organization, which is at the end of the life cycle of, in an organization, these accounts will also need to be taken care of. They should be deprovisioned. And most of the time, if the HR is going to be sending you all those details right away, and then you take care of them instantly, that's great situation. But maybe if there is a delay in the mail that has to be sent from the HR saying that these users have left the organization, so do the needful from the hiring manager. So whoever sends you that data doesn't send it on time, or let's say you get the email on time, but due to other pressing needs from the current employees, the active requests of your existing employees, your helpless requests that always seem to be full, then these tasks such as these would take a backseat because of that, right? So rather than again leaving it to time, or just the idea of taking care of these orphaned or these tail accounts can be daunting. Just to avoid that, what you could do is letting these tools communicate. So what happens is, when the HR is updating those user details, he's deleting or he's disabling that account in the HR portal when the employees quit, and then the tool detects that change and then correspondingly deprovision the account. So by deprovisioning, I'm not just talking about a simple, just moving it to another OU and leaving it at that, but I'm talking about all those steps that is based on your organization's policy. That could be first, maybe, as I said, moving them to another OU where you have all your ex-employee accounts, and then you start to get rid of their privileges because let's say if you had these users who belong to a certain top level security groups because they were part of certain important business decision making teams, then these accounts will have access to organization resources, right? So this, even someone as simple as someone from the finance team, this could be a low level employee, but he could have access to financial records, could be a user who's part of sales. So all that information is just lying there, or all that information that is linked to that user account is lying there if it's not addressed in time. Now, let's say an external hacker unfortunately gets hold of these users' credentials, maybe from a data breach or a phishing email, any of those external threats that are lurking around, or even a malicious user, an insider who happens to know the credentials of these users and then hacks into this user account, then he's pretty much given access to anything that the previous employee had, right? So when you address this immediately through an automation, and in this case, specifically through an HR driven deprovisioning, then these accounts do not have, or these accounts would be rather dummy accounts, wherein they are not a potential security loophole, because even if the credentials are compromised due to some unfortunate incident, then the attack surface, or the direction in which, or the attack surface area that the attacker can penetrate and then is limited, right? So he will not be able to do a lot of things that he would have done if the all those privileges were left intact. So that is a great way to make sure that your stale accounts are not posing a risk to your organization. And of course, we touched upon onboarding, which is the first thing when the employee joins the organization, and deprovisioning, which is when employees quit and leave the organization, right? So this is the first and the last step. But of course, in the entire life cycle of the employee's life cycle in an organization, there are going to be various other changes that could happen. Maybe the user started off as an intern, then he's moved, or he's termed as a full-time employee later, then he's given or delegated certain projects. He stays in the company for a long time, that he's promoted or he's moved to another department, and so on and so forth. So these changes that happen in a typical employee's life in an organization means that there are also other changes, like when there is a transfer or when there is a promotion, then the user's corresponding group memberships, or their access to their file servers, or their contact attributes they're reporting to, all those fields also have to be updated in Active Directory, right? So that is aligned to their current role. And also another important point is making sure that all those previous roles or the previous privileges that the user had, let's say when he belonged to a different department, or when he was from a different level, all those privileges also need to be cleaned off, or if it's not necessary for the current role, that needs to be taken care of, so that this user doesn't have access to a lot of resources that he doesn't need, right? So again, in this case as well, with these employee changes, you can map the integration, or rather you can sync the HRMS update that the HR is updating. That could be as a designation change or a team change. A single attribute change like that can trigger a series of changes in the Active Directory side of the application, right? So that could be the privileges that the user has. So this can also be triggered, or can be configured, so that those help desk requests that comes your way can be tackled easily, and rather than a user himself raising a request for certain privileges that he need for the new role. This automation will make sure that the changes there will again bring forth a series of changes with respect to his privileges in Active Directory and other applications, right? So uh, very closely tied to what I just said is making sure that these users have a specific, or every employee role or designation will have a consistent uh, role based checklist of privileges. For example, a user joining the marketing department should be granted access to these groups. They should be able to access these file servers. They should be reporting to this user. These are their office details, their contact details, so on and so forth. So all of this have to be maintained for each designation and role. How does it help you? Here is once again, if you're a single person who's going to be managing the Active Directory needs or the IT needs of your employees, you may know where everything is in place. Let's say if you have a new team members joining your organization, or if you're already a multi-member team, having a consistency in going about these tasks will help you avoid errors or inconsistencies when you're provisioning or reprovisioning these user accounts. Or let's say if you have to train a new employee, an intern who has joined your team, you want to make sure that this new user, this new employee in the IT team is not giving any access rights or any privileges that are not necessary for that particular user's role. Right? So all of this will make sure, or will give you a sort of a framework or a reference by which you can stick to, you as well as your team members can follow whenever there's a task. So when you know that this particular task, this is the nature of the request, whether it's a user creation or whether it's a user modification, and if there's a department change or there's a transfer from one location to another, then this is what you have to do. So this might sound a um, uh, little different or a little confusing at this point, but when I talk about a particular feature in the application, it'll make it, this will fall into place nicely. So I'll just going to leave this out there, and then I will take you through this particular topic in depth when I talk about the solution, wherein this checklist of permissions will be highly useful. And of course, very important, making sure that every action, whether it's the onboarding process or whether it's a deprovisioning process, or whether it's just a simple action like your reset password or an update to any of the user's attributes, have to be notified immediately uh, through email or SMS to the relevant stakeholders. Could be your hiring manager, could be the HR, could be your department head, could be the employee himself who needs to know what has been done. So this is a great way to make sure if there are any red flags, if there are any issues, that can be quickly identified and then addressed, right? So that everybody is notified and held accountable as well. So this is just a quick introduction to some of the, or rather a quick overview of some of the topics that I wanted to talk about, which is starting from user onboarding and then moving on to how you can avoid or make sure that these tail accounts gets addressed really quickly. Their accounts are not lying there to be used or to be accessed by the hackers, and how you can standardize your onboarding and offboarding, your reprovisioning of users with the help of a checklist, and most importantly, keeping them notified in real time. Right, so I want to quickly introduce you to the solution here. I don't want to spend too much time here because AD Manager Plus itself is a very comprehensive solution, and it has a lot of capabilities with respect to management as well as reporting, workflow, delegation, and so on. So we're going to be touching upon just one aspect of the automation module, which is the topics that we covered today, which is creation, modification, as well as your deletion. So just going to highlight you, or just going to take you through some of the key points. Just want to bring to your attention that you can see the integration with AD Manager Plus with the HR applications. I'll show you in a bit what are these HR applications we support. Allows integration, or rather allows creation, modification, as well as deletion of Active Directory users in AD, Active Directory, the Microsoft 365, Exchange, Skype for Business, G Suite, and also MS Teams, which I've missed here. So this allows all the management actions that I've listed here. So some of the tools that we support as of now are Workday, Ultipro, Waboo HR, Zoho People, which is our in-house solution. And if you're using, or if the organization that you're a part of uses the application, the HR application uses MS SQL or Oracle as its database, then that can be linked as well. So you can allow integration for that. So I have a small diagram here which will help you understand this further. So I just want to take you to that. Right. So this is just a diagrammatic representation, as I said, just taking you through the integration. So then I will also show you the actual process in the application. The first on the LHS, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, the HR is entering the details into the HRMS portal. So I just have a question from one of our attendees. How is Oracle eConnect support integration? I'm guessing you're talking about AD Manager Plus sorry, the HRMS application as well as SuccessFactors. So we've had quite a request, feature request coming in from our existing customers about SuccessFactors. This is something which is in our pipeline. Oracle eConnect is something that I'm hearing from a webinar attendee for the first time, but this is definitely this is something that I would definitely pass on to the team. But as of now, we do not support integration of these. But what we can help you is, let's say, if you are already using AD Manager Plus and SuccessFactors uses, or Oracle eConnect uses MS SQL or Oracle as its database, then you can go ahead and then configure that with the help of our support team. So this is something that what I would recommend is if you're already touching base with our support team, I would request you to drop an email to help you with this. So I see that some of you have asked some more. So as of now, these are the products that we support. Just want to quickly go over the products again. If your HR application or the HR application in your environment is using Oracle as its database, or MS SQL as its database, then that can be linked. I understand that some of the SaaS-based applications will not share their database access. You're right, absolutely right. So the configuration will be done in such a way that right. So just quickly pausing there to just take a look at the questions. Yes. So what I would recommend is since you seem to be already using AD Manager Plus, and I would highly recommend to get in touch with our support team. So these are some of the out-of-the-box HRMS integrations that we support as of now. But for specific products, we have accommodated requests through some workarounds to make sure that these tools can be integrated. So I would leave the email address of our support team in the chat box as well. So do talk to our team. They will definitely be able to assist you on that. Thank you. Right. So coming back to this figure that I was talking about. So as you can see here on the LHS, our HR is entering all the details in the HR application. In this case, I've just put out these names because this is what we support integration with. And we have already taken care of the integration with AD Manager Plus. Now, once you have done that, what happens is the tool will detect the new users that are being entered by the HR and that is entered and saved. And then the accounts will be created, or user accounts will be created in Active Directory, as well as your other applications like Exchange Mailbox, Microsoft 365, MS Teams, Skype for Business, and G Suite. Right? So this will be done in one go for all these user accounts in bulk. I just want to take you through this particular part here. So let's say if you're using If you've been using this for a while and you want to make sure that there is no duplication, the tool does a validation to see or to take in only the appended users, only the new users. So this is a great way to prevent any duplication that could potentially happen. The tool has validation controls for that. Another important point is, let's say if you do not want to go ahead with the HRMS integration, but you still want to automate the user onboarding, user modification, as well as your offboarding, but you just have a CSV file and I want to rather just use my CSV file with all my new users that were sent from the HR, then that can be done as well. So you can give your location of the CSV file. If you've stored it in some specific location with all your new users, you can enter them one after the, so you can give the location and the tool will detect the new users, again, the appended objects alone, and create accounts. So how you can do that, when I'm showing you the application, I'll take you through those steps. So this is just a diagrammatic representation. I want to also show you how this is done in the solution. So I'm going to log in here. This is a test setup of demo, the AD Manager Plus that is available. You can go ahead and try this if you'd like to, or what I would recommend is to get a better experience. Just log on to the website, admanagerplus.com, and you'll be able to download a 30-day free trial of the tool, right? So you can go ahead and try that for 30 days for free. And then you can, if you have any questions, you can reach out to our team, right? So I'm just going to, I don't want to spend too much time here taking you through the options. But if you're interested to know in depth about AD Manager Plus, maybe you're evaluating the solution, what I would recommend is signing up for AD Manager Plus workshop series. They happen over a period of 5 days, a 45-minute to an hour session each, and which goes into a very in-depth view into all of these all of these capabilities that you can see here. And we'll be talking you through some of the important day-to-day scenarios, as well, how we can achieve that using the applications. I'm not going to spend time on this because a technical workshop is a best place for that if you want to know more about the application. So the automation module is where we're going to be looking at, and all our actions, which is starting from your onboarding, your reprovisioning, as well as your offboarding, is all in this module, right? So I can go ahead and create a new automation here. So you choose an automation name, something which helps you identify what this is about. The category of automation is user automation because we're going to be creating users. So this is where you set what task is set or what action you want to automate. The first one that you see is create users. And you can see that an option to choose a template appears. Now, this is the one that I was referring to earlier. A template is that checklist of roles and permissions configured for a particular department or a particular designation and so on. So I will show you what a template looks like. So I'm just going to quickly leave it as the default option that you can see on the screen. And there are a couple of ways, or more than a couple of ways, wherein you can give your input. So this is what I was talking about. If you have a CSV file, then you give the location, something like this, where I have my CSV file with the list of new users who are set to join the organization. You can go ahead with that option, or if you support it, or if you would like to allow the integration to help you here with the onboarding, in that case, you can select any of this. So in the admin settings, you can configure your tool. You just have to give some basic information like your URL, your server name, port name, and those details based on, so each of the application has its own requirements. You can always go ahead and look up on our help docs how to do this. It's pretty self-explanatory. So once you do that, you can choose when you want this action to run, right? So if it's if the automation is set to run at a particular date and time, you can go ahead and do that. You can choose your custom date, your custom time, what is the frequency that can be done, and you enable notification. So your notification is like the email and the SMS content, what needs to go out, to whom it needs to go out, and what should be the attachment format, and so on, right? So that can be again customized You can create a new template with new details for each of these action, and not just your user onboarding, and your offboarding, right? So I have a question from one of our attendees: where do you get a sample CSV file? So this is a CSV file that I have created in my location. A CSV file is as simple as just having a list of users with all their LDAP headers given, right? So I'm going to show you a format of a CSV file here. So as you can see on the top right corner, there is a help doc. So this is a very comprehensive help doc. We add every single feature, every single enhancement that goes into the tool with every release that happens every month goes into this help doc. So you can find any information that you want about the tool here. You can always access it from our website, our resources section as well, but this can be accessed from the tool from the help section here. So as you can see, the first one is a CSV import, right? And there's a sample CSV file here. So this is just a sample CSV file for your understanding. Going to take you, just bring to your attention these attributes, right? So this is the first name, the last name, the SAM account name, password, the group memberships, telephone number. And then we have two users. We have James Smith and James William here, and all the attributes are listed one by one. So this is the format for a CSV file. What you can do is, even if it's two users like this, or 10 users, or even 20 to 50, 100, how many ever users, you have to just follow the format that is given here, right? So your LDAP attributes will help you communicate with the tool. I'm sure this is something that you're very familiar with already. So you just given the correct LDAP header name, and then you follow it up with these corresponding attribute values for each of these users. And if you just need to have a quick look at some of the LDAP attributes supported by ID Manager Plus, then right here there's a link, list of LDAP attributes supported. So this is like a column which will match the name as well as the corresponding LDAP name, right? So this is again, this doesn't have everything and anything, but this will cover most of the basic attributes. You can always look it up on Microsoft site. So this help doc will give you any information that you need. So I have one such CSV file that I've created in my location, so which is what I've uploaded here with just a set of users. Similarly, you can go ahead and have one CSV file in your network as well, and have all your new users user details added there, right? So when you click on select only the appended objects from the file, previously created accounts will not be taken into account. So that's a great way to avoid any duplicates that could happen when you're creating users. So this is how you create an account automatically, and this can be applied for any number of users at the same time. On that certain date and time, the account will be provisioned. Sorry, the accounts will be provisioned, right? So just want to pause here and take you through templates. So there are user creation as well as your user modification templates. The purpose of the two are different, of course, from the name. You can identify that creation is for when you create users, and modification is for when you modify users. So this is just a sample template that has been created in our test setup. So the attributes that you can see here, or the tabs that you can see here, can be removed, can be customized. You can choose what needs to be filled. So you basically fill in all these attribute values, right? The first name, the last name, and all those unique attributes that will of course be left empty because they're going to be waiting for each user. But the other, the groups, they're a part of the contact attributes, their title, their designation, and all these properties can be configured beforehand. So anytime when you're creating users, what you have to do is just invoke this template or pull in the template that we just saw in the automation tab. And all those attributes will be filled in when you do that, right? So you don't have to manually enter those details. So this is a great way to cut down on any excess tasks. So if you want to enter the department and the title and the company and the manager for, let's say, one department, then all of this can be pre-configured and saved. So there is no limit to the number of templates that you can create. You can create any templates you want. You can even set rules for each of these templates. For example, if the department of the user, if the department of the user is, let's say, marketing, right? So something as simple as that, then right. So in this case, the titles are different. So I'm going to just go ahead with the one that is here, which is accounting. Then you can set your member of value, right? So that can be done here. You add. Similarly, you can add the OU. There should be a part of. You set your OU here. Click on add, and your manager, all of that, right? So again, you set the manager value and add. This is just a simple explanation on how you can customize it. Rather than entering all those details one by one, you can just set a rule instead, which will autofill all those attribute values. So this is how you can create a new template. You can modify it based on your requirements, completely customizable. You can choose what attributes should be hidden, what should be mandatory, what should not be edited, what should retain the existing attribute value in Active Directory, and so on. So that is all up to you to configure, and you just pull in this template when you're creating users as well. Now, similarly, touching upon deprovisioning, wherein you create policy. Now, a deprovisioning could be as simple as just disabling account and leaving it as it is, but or rather following a long drawn process or a very granular process of making sure that these accounts do not have any of the privileges that they had when they were part of the team, right? So as you can see here, there's one here which is called AD account cleanup. So the first step could be moving users to a different domain. So you can move them so that they are different from, they do not belong to the container of the existing users. And maybe after 7 days, you can remove them from group, clear all their group memberships. You can, after 10 days, you can maybe remove their licenses, or this could be the first order of business. And then after a certain number of days, you disable them. So all of this, as you can see, is completely customizable. So I've deleted them all. I can add my successive tasks from scratch, right? So maybe this is the first step that I would like. Maybe after a day, what I would want is to take care of the licenses, because these licenses don't come cheap. So that could be one. That could be the first thing that I want to do, is remove all the licenses that they are a part of, and that could be even hours after this first particular task is done, right? So maybe like an hour later you do this. Similarly, you add maybe another 7 days, but just a day later you can remove them from group. You can hide from exchange address list, um, block the users, or configure your or remove the user from all M365 groups, so on and so forth. You can go ahead and even configure a custom script wherein you can choose what actions need to be carried out, and that can be done here, right? If you're familiar, if you're comfortable with this, you can do that rather than going and performing each of these action or listing them here, right? So similarly, you can perform multiple tasks. So what is the next step that you do now that this is the policy that you've configured? You need to configure your automation for that, right? So the action or the set of processes that we go about is absolutely the same as what we did for user creation. You enter a name, you enter a category. Again, we're going to stick with user automation because we're going to be automating the users, right? So not any other objects. So in the task, we selected create users earlier. So here there is the option of choosing your policy, right? So these are the policies that have been previously created. If you have a policy for deprovisioning, then you go ahead and choose that policy. So I'm just going to go ahead and select one policy here, which is again a deprovisioning policy. So if you would like the integration to take place, integration to help you here, so you can choose the input just like the previous step. So when the HR is updating or disabling or deleting the user account in the HR portal, then your deprovisioning policy will be activated for all those users and the account will be deprovisioned, right? So whatever you've configured in the policy will happen. Or if you would like to do a stale account cleanup on a regular basis, you can again use a CSV file with all your stale account, stale users, right? Or we do have predefined reports, and there is one specific report for inactive users. So you want to identify all your users who have been inactive for 90 days. You exclude the disabled ones and the never logged on ones. You can even add conditions like, let's say, I do not want users from a certain OU to be included here. So that can be done here. So every month on the date that you set, right? So I'm going to go ahead and choose a month here. So that could be first of every month at this time here, or at 7 in the morning, right? So you go ahead and, right. See, I'm just going to leave it at this, right? So you can choose your date and time, right, at this stage, and the new users or the report will be generated instantly, because you would never know that if these inactive users later, the account users could turn into active users. So the report will be generated at that particular date and time. So that will make sure that there is no that you don't accidentally clean up the active accounts of users. So the report will be generated and the deprovisioning policy will be carried out. Similarly, you can configure notification, which will be triggered in real time, talking about all these actions that were carried out that could be sent to the employee's manager or the HR or even your department as well. So this is how you can configure your automation for deprovisioning. Similarly, there are other actions that can be done using automation as well. So I'm not going to touch upon all of those. You can do as simple as a reset password for bulk users, you can for unlock users, or modify any attributes of users based on a department change. So you can use the template that you created earlier, and that template can be used to invoke all those changes. So this is just a one or two examples that I've touched upon in the automation capability or the automation category. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask me. I'll be here once the session ends as well. So, or you can email it to me as well. So just going over the benefits of automating your important management actions like your onboarding and your offboarding. Some of these points that we already covered here, which is quite obvious. Just have a question from one of our attendees here, Raju. Can we do reverse writing to HRMS? No, unfortunately, whatever details that the HR is updating, that will be synced here. If the HR is creating or entering the details of new users, then it will detect and then it will create accounts here. If the HR is modifying the department value, and then if you've configured a template, then all the department value will be the department, and the corresponding changes in the Active Directory will be updated as well. And when the user is deleted by the HR, then you can go ahead and then the action will be carried out in Active Directory. Right. So I hope that answered your question. So just touching upon some of the points that we already discussed, it's quite it's a great way to make sure that your tasks, your low task load comes down to a great extent, because letting the two tools talk, and then taking care of your onboarding, your offboarding, as well as your modification of objects, and that's a great way to cut down on any errors that could creep in when you're doing this, right, man? When you're doing this for repeated times for each user, there are chances of errors creeping in, and this will cut down on errors to a large extent. And of course, a single entry into the HRMS will create, modify the users. That could be your group memberships, or could be your other privileges that are linked to these changes, like could be your title, your designation, your location, and then I'm sorry, also revoking all the privileges that the user has once he leaves the organization, right? So all of this can be addressed with this integration. And if you're not using a solution, or if you'd rather import a CSV file here, then that can be done through the automation module as well. So that brings us to the end of session. If you have any other questions, I would be here online. You can always drop an email to me. So specific questions about today's session, questions generally about automation module or AD Manager Plus, or any other topic with respect to today's session, please feel free to reach out to me. Before we end the session, I have a request from all of you. So I'm going to launch a poll, which you'll be able to see on your screen right now. This is just for me to understand if you are using AD Manager Plus, or if you're evaluating the solution, or would you like us to get in touch with you, someone from my team to get in touch with you to give you um, a free online demo of the solution. So you can go ahead and let us know, and we will get in touch with you at a convenient date and time. So I see that a lot of you are currently evaluating AD Manager Plus at this point. What I would recommend is to really sign up. It would be really useful for you to sign up for the AD Manager Plus workshop series. You would be getting the email about our upcoming session from the same from our team. So I'm guessing you're all receiving our other online event invite mails as well. So if you do see an AD Manager Plus workshop series, do register for that, and that will help you a lot, since a lot of you are evaluating the solution. So thank you so much. I've got results from votes from all of you. I'm going to end the poll right now, and I'll launch the second poll, which is the session feedback. So do let me know. Once again, I'll be able to see your responses live. And you will be getting a recording of this as well. And if you do reach out, need a copy of the presentation, please do email me. I have left my email address on the screen. You can see that. It's megha.r@zohocorp.com. But if you also want a copy or an email, or the email address of our support team, in case if you have any questions with respect to the HRMS application that you are using, and whether it can be integrated with AD Manager Plus, then the email address is support@admanagerplus.com. I have left the details email address in the chat box. Lovely. Thank you so much for your responses, and I really appreciate the feedback. Do feel free to drop in a line to if you have any questions, and I'll try to address them as soon as possible with the help of my team. So thank you so much, all of you, that you took time to register, and also most importantly took time off your busy schedule and join me for today's session. I hope the session, you had some key benefits, some interesting tidbits that you learned from today's session. And I hope to see all of you for our next event. Until then, take care and stay safe.